Hello, students. Welcome you all in a new lecture of environmental science. In today's lecture, we are going to study about different cases or the incidences which were happen in a particular time that are related to some uh, the misfunctioning or about any kind of accident. Okay? And according to the different types of types of pollution, okay, we are going to see what are the different cases or accidents who happen. Now, the first thing, as you can see in the picture, that is where machineries and December 3rd, 1984, it is dated. Okay? The picture is posted or printed in the newspaper. The first case study which was happened is about air pollution. So the worst short-term civilian event from pollution in India was the 1984, that is Bhopal disasters. So it was the greatest, we can say, the accident, okay, which were happened, or the incident which is recorded about the air pollution or the leakage of gases. So leaked industrial vapors killed more than 2,000 people outright and injured anywhere from 1,50,000 to 60,000 others, and some 6,000 of whom would late die from their injuries. So that was one of the incident which were recorded in the history. The another case, okay, about the air pollution is in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom suffered its worst air pollution event when the December 4th Great Smog of 1952 formed over London. So, as we have discussed in the air pollution, what is a smog? It is a mixture of fog and smoke. Now, because of certain activities and the region of where this incidents were happened, that is in London, it is already a region where the temperature is maintained at a lower grade, or the low temperature is there. So, of course, the fog is going to be there. And because of the fire activities, the smoke came out in the air. And with the combination of fog and smoke, they form a large hazy environment or the cloudy environment over the city. Now, what happened because of this? As we know, these conditions are very critical or the dangerous for human beings because the civilians or the people who are living there could not be able to respire. So, in short, there is a difficulty in breathing. And as we know, that is that the first most necessity for the human being for the survival. That is a clear air for required for the respiration. So, what happened because of this smog? In 6 days, more than 4,000 people died, and 8,000 more died with the following months in the former of USSR in 1979, an accidental leak of anthrax from biological warfare and laboratory near Cerebral Dock caused hundreds of civilian deaths. Okay, so this was about the up to this much. It is about the smog, okay, or the condition which is or the incidents which was happened in the London. Then after what they discovered that they smog spread it to nearby cities also. And the second one incident which was observed in the laboratory of that is several dogs. It is because of anthrax spores. Okay, so as we know, these are the biological or the microbes which are uh, used in a laboratory, and because of the accidental release or the leakage, that the spores were spreaded all over the that country or the region. Okay, so as we know, the anthrax is a disease which is caused by this bacterium. So if you observe in the picture, is a spore forming bacterium. So these are mainly affect animal, mostly the cattle. Okay, so even the humans can become infected through the contact with an infected animal or by inflaming these spores. Okay, so this was anthrax is a airborne disease. So like flu-like symptoms can be observed because of anthrax. Okay, this is a bacteria, and the what you can observe the wounds on the skin. Okay, because of the accidental leakage of anthrax spores, many of the civilians were caused from that suffered from the anthrax, and ultimately the death occurred. Now, why death? Because the concentration of that anthrax spores is so much that the body can heal you at a particular limit, that the immune system can work at a particular limit. After that, the machineries or the mechanism failed or got filled. So that's why many civilians died or the deaths can observe. The worst single incident of airborne pollution in United States of America occurred in Donora, that is Venezuela, in late October 1948, when 20 people died and over 7,000 people were injured. Okay. In 1930, the catastrophe in the Meuse Valley, Belgium, where so particulate matter and combined with a high relative humidity caused 63 excess death in 5 days. Now afterwards, after that, the new case which were reported is about the particulated matter got mixed with the humidity or air. Okay, so as the humidity is there and the particulated matter mixed with that air, of course, that particulated matter must be inhaled by the human beings. Okay, and that's happened because of the catastrophic activity at the Belgium. Now, this particulated matter or any dust particle, when they enter inside the respiratory system, of course it is a foreign particle for the body, and the immune system starts working on that. So you may, because of the accumulation of the dust particle or the particulated matter, the and because of the triggered immune system, you can observe different symptoms. This may result into some kind of allergy, or body tries to eliminate that substances from the body. Now, what happens in this case? Why the 63 excess deaths in 5 days were reported? Because there is a excessive deposition of this dust particle or the particulate matter in the respiratory system. And as we know, our respiratory system is very delicate. So the tracheos or that small grapes like structure which you can observe, that a tree like diagram of the respiratory system, lungs, and in there, that in the two lungs there is a tree like structure is there. Okay, and the there is a tracheal, and the alveoli, the small grape like structure is there, and this alveoli are responsible for the transmission for gases. Okay, that is a their surface layer is very thick, that is 1 micrometer, and through that, the from the blood, the actual transfusion or the actual exchange of gases takes place. The CO2 is passed into the body, and oxygen is again uptake by the alveoli, and they are exhale out through the nose. Okay. Now, what happens if there is a dust deposition? That will hamper or that will interfere with the exchange of gases. Okay. So, when the dust particle will settle down or they reach to the alveoli, of course, there will be a less surface area for the inhalation and exhalation or the transfer of gases. That's why this excessive, 63 deaths were observed or reported. Okay. Another, what are the another cases about different types of pollution? There is a water pollution, and the very famous disease, it is called as a Minamata disease. So in Minamata, Japan, okay, that you can observe here in a Minamata, Japan, Inorganic mercury was used in the industrial production of acetaldehyde. It was discharged into the nearby bay as a wastewater and was ingested by organisms in the bottom sediment. So, from where does this? From where did this uh, mercury came into the aquatic ecosystem? That is from the industry. Okay, that is industrial production of acetaldehyde and the effluents which were released inside the aquatic body or the water system. Okay, that was containing mercury or the inorganic mercury. So it was discharged into the nearby bay as a wastewater and ingested by the organisms in the bottom sediment because it is accumulated in the aquatic ecosystem. The fish and other creatures in the seawater soon contaminated and eventual residents of the area who consume the fish suffered from MEH, that is meth mercury intoxication, later known as the Minamata disease. Now, what happened, or what is the mechanism, or how this reached to human beings in this case? As we know, the effluents were released in the aquatic ecosystem, and there is a deposition or that mercury were ingested in different organisms of the ecosystem. The fish and other creatures were soon contaminated. That means that bioaccumulation takes place. The bioaccumulation of mercury takes place, and eventually the biomagnification took place. Now, how that the vegetation were contaminated or they have taken the mercury. The next creatures are small insects, fish, large fish, and then last one is topmost consumer is either birds or we can consider as a aquatic birds and human beings who are eating fish. So the contaminated fish were eaten by the nearby people, okay, and that caused them a Minamata disease. Okay, it was because of meth mercury. So disease was first detected in 1956, but the mercury emission continued until 1968. So, still, the government, or we can say the people, were reluctant to change the system. Okay? Even after that, the emission of mercury stopped. The bottom sediment of the polluted water contained high levels of mercury. That's why it is very important to maintain the nature or the any abatic factor very carefully because you cannot reverse the state like it was originally was there. Okay? And you how can you take out the all the mercury from the bottom of sea or the aquatic ecosystem? So various measures were taken to deal with disease. Research and investigative activities were promoted assiduously, and compensation and help was offered by this Japanese government to those affected by the disease. Okay. Now, in the picture, you can observe how much the severity was. That it not does not only affected the physical health, okay, but the very mentally can observe a very dark impacts in the population. The next one is arsenic pollution in groundwater. So, like the Minamata disease, there is arsenic pollution in the groundwater. That the incidences were recorded in the West Bengal and Bangladesh. Okay. So, West Bengal and Bangladesh are severely contaminated by toxic heavy metal arsenic. Now, from where does this came? So, arsenic poisoning has far reaching consequences. The local people were found to be ingesting low doses of arsenic for 10 to 14 years, for which suddenly white and black spots called melanosis started mottling the skin. Okay, so actually, it was came from the people uh, say who were working in the dye or the any color industry. Okay, so as the line from that the doses were ingested, or the small amount of arsenic of low doses were ingested for 10 to 14 years. And then only that people see this condition, that is melanosis. That means the any pollutant or toxicant, if you give, okay, mostly we can say a pollutant, that will not show a direct effect on the body, because body has certain healing mechanism, or the mm, that, me- uh, that mechanism which can neutralize that substance, so that you won't see any kind of ill effects. Now those people were living there, the doses were given maybe indirectly, okay, they were ingesting for 10 to 14 years, and suddenly they found that they are have white and black spots. You can observe here on their hand, there are white and black spots. This is called as a melanosis. Now melanin is a pigment which is produced by the skin in your body, not produced by the skin, it is produced by your body, and which is giving a dark color or the of your skin. High melanin concentration, higher the darker color of your skin. Lower the melanin production, lower the color, or the, we can say, the pale or the whitish color of your skin. Okay. So what you can observe, or sorry, what you can interpret by this sentence is that arsenic is a pollutant which is interfering the process of, or the pathway of, melanin production. Along with that, the it is interfering with the melanin deposition in the body. So where the melanin deposition is higher, or the normal, that portion you can observe normal, that is same coloration of the remaining body. And the white patches, okay, even if I zoom it, the small white patches you can observe. Okay. Now what are these conditions? That at that place the melanin production or the melanin deposition is very less. The spots were later found to be converted into leprosy-like skin lesions, eventually turning into ulcers. Okay. Now, what are lesions? Lesions are, it is a medical term that actual meaning is, after curing a particular disease, the scars which you remains, that is called as the lesions, eventually turning into ulcers. So that is a very dangerous condition. So long exposure often led to be bladder and lung cancer. Okay? And excessive use of lead arsenate and copper arsenate are pesticides in high yielding varieties of summer paddy and jute crop seems to be a major causes of arsenic pollution. Okay, so that is where the people use the arsenate or the arsenic. Okay, that is the lead arsenate and copper arsenate in the summer paddy and jute crop. Okay, as a pesticide. Now, arsenic contaminated tube wells in the states are being painted red, while safe water tube wells are painted green for the use by people. Now, by knowing this information, you can judge how much the contamination was there. That it was, the arsenic was percolated in the groundwater, that they have to color their wells or the tube wells, which is nearby their area for the safe foods water supply. Now, the green one is in the arsenic free area. That means the groundwater is arsenic free. And the right one is arsenic contaminated, that anyone should not drink that water and face or suffer from any disease, that is called as a melanosis. Okay. Now next one is nuclear pollution. Okay, the one first case which were observed, it is the Chernobyl disaster. On April 25th, 1986, the worst civil nuclear catastrophe in the history occurred in the nuclear power plant at Chernobyl, Soviet Union. Nowadays, it is known as Ukraine. Okay, so this was a plant of Chernobyl. Okay, that is a nuclear plant. So more than 30 people were killed immediately. and the radiation released was 30 to 40 times than the atomic bombs dropped on the Japan during the World War II. So the intensity was so much, that is, even as compared to the atomic bomb, it was 30 to 40% higher. So hundreds and thousands of people were ultimately evacuated from the most heavily contaminated zone surrounding Chernobyl. Okay. So radiation spread to encompass almost all Europe and Asia Minor. So the radiation were also dispersed into a large area. The health impacts of Chernobyl expansion will never be fully known. It is estimated that some 3 million people still live in a contaminated area, and almost 10,000 people still live in a Chernobyl itself. Now, if you see these conditions, it is a very dangerous. Okay. Now, what it is, uh, the 3 million people are still living in the contaminated area. Now, though we can say all the residues or all these things were cleared, okay, but still that area must have absorbed the radiations. Okay, and as we know, the earth crust is absorbing radiation, converting into isotopes, and still those are emitting energy. So the plant itself was not fully shut down until nearly 15 years after the disasters. Studies by Burley's Ministry of Health located approximately 80 miles of South Chernobyl and found that rates of thyroid cancer began to soar in the contaminated regions in 1990, 4 years after the radiation release. So that was the disadvantage, or we can say the ill effects, what we people must have observed, that is thyroid cancers began, that is in 1990, that means after 4 years. Okay, that means still the radiations are affecting or were affecting at that point. So this was a patient who immediately taken for the hospitalization. Now the another incident is 3 Mile Island. Okay, this one is a 3 Mile Island. So in March 2028, 1979, that a reactor 2 at the 3 Mile Island, that is TMI, nuclear plant suffered a partial meltdown. Okay, so that is a plant where the 3 Mile Island, and it was an accident because of the miscommunication, and that was created a big accident. Okay, and what is that? We'll see. The accident occurs sequentially. A minor problem caused the temperature of the primary coolant to rise. So, if you see the general structure of the any power plant, okay, there is a coolant because the with the nuclear energy, high amount of heat is usually produced. So, to maintain the temperature of that plant or the structure, there must be a coolant or the structure or the instrument which can lower down the temperature. Okay. In 1 second, the reactor shut down, and a relief valve that was supposed to close after 10 seconds remain open. Okay. So relief valve is, we can say, the block valve or the open valve, which is for to release the pressure and maintain the environment which is inside. So plant instrumentation owned operators that a close valve signal and had been sent. Okay. So there was no instrumentation to tell them the valve is itself was still open. So there was nothing mechanism or the people who were able to give or pass on this message to who is operator. Okay. So who was the operator? And the reactor's primary coolant drained away, and the reactor core suffered serious damage. Fuel rod were damaged. Fuel rods were damaged, leaking radioactive materials into the cooling water, and the high temperature chemical reactions created bubbles of hydrogen gas. Okay, so one of these bubbles burned and creating fears that larger hydrogen gas bubble would explode, possibly breaching the plant's contaminant structure. Okay, So some gases were purposefully vented into the atmosphere. It took nearly full month to bring the reactors to cold shutdown status. Okay, so that much amount of energy heat were producing. So it took 1 month to come or to cool down. Okay, they said there was never damage, there was never danger of massive explosion, and hundreds of readings were taken by that is Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources showed almost no iodine, and all regarding readings were far below the health limits. Okay. So there was, however, widespread panic indulging, including unordered mass evacuation. The greater problem at TMI was total failure of communication. So internal radioactive levels were reported as ambient or outdoor readings. So this was because of the miscommunication and the because they don't have any kind of a mechanism or the pathway system that will help them at that time to pass a message that is a valve is open. Okay. Now next one is about nuclear submarines. So in August 12, 2000, an explosion in a torpedo tube sank the giant Russian nuclear submarine Kursk and or the Kursk, its crew of 118 in the Barnett Sea. Okay. So what happened? The Russian official described the sinking as a catastrophe that developed at a lightning speed. So a week later, a divers opened the rear hatch of the submarine but found no survivors. So it took salvages 2 years, but the Kursk and her two nuclear reactors were raised. Okay, so Kursk was the sixth nuclear submarine to have sunk in 1963. Two others all came to rest on the ocean floor at the depth more than 4,500 feet. So as you know, that is a very low level of the submarine or the sorry at the sea level, far below where most marine life lives. Okay, so they include two former Soviet submarines. One the sank East Bermuda, and another went down into Bay of Biscay. So you can see the difference between the time period that is in the this was Bermuda in 1986 and Biscay in 1970 and two US. Okay. So nuclear submarines, the USS Precious and USS Scorpion, okay, which sank in the 1960 at a height of the Cold War. Okay, and these experiences clearly showed that the health and environmental consideration must be integrated to the process of economic and industrial development from an early stage. So this was about a catastrophic event which will happen and that destroyed the submarine and how it was a you can say hazardous for the or the dangerous for the people who are working at the submarine. Okay, because they did not find any survivor at that time. Okay, now along with that the one more disease which I forgot to tell you, that is a itai disease, which is of a case of the water pollution. So it is also because of the cadmium poisoning, and the many people who were living in Japan, okay, they suffered from the that itai disease. That is because of the poisoning of cadmium. Okay, so this was about case studies of uh, this because of different pollution. Okay, so that is the first one is air pollution. So common question or the very famous question of the paper setter is London smog. Okay, so it is a classical case which environmentalists used to study. The next one is the water pollution. So Minamata disease is there, Itai disease is there, and arsenic pollution. Okay, along with that, if the fluoride is different, sorry, very high in water content, then fluorosis may happen, or it is a damaging to the teeth. Okay, then nuclear pollution is the Chernobyl disaster and a 3 mile uh, disaster or the 3 Mile Island uh, case. Along with that, the one is a nuclear submarine. Okay, so that was that these are the overall cases of or the case studies of in which were usually reported in the case studies as the case studies to study this cases. Now, why it is important to study these cases, or what is the importance? As we know, why we are studying history, that we are learning something from that to avoid mistakes. Okay, the same thing. What we can do it is to study this certain incidences or case study, and we can avoid uh, certain mistakes. Okay, like the lack of communication, we can fill that gap of communication with certain kind of messenger, or we can set a system by which we can transmit that message to a desired destination or the people. And the second most important thing is all these are pollutions, how these were harmful for the ecosystem. That study usually done, or that is done by the environmentalists. And the third thing is by overcoming these mistakes, how we can balance the ecosystem or the harmony, maintain the harmony in the nature, because that is only helpful for the living organism. That's why, that is the main purpose to study these cases or the incidences which were happened in the past. Okay, and that these are the very big cases of uh, the incidences. Okay, so that was about different cases. So short note come or may ask in the examination